I'm not entirely sure the whole wanting to be a furry. The way I see it is like, I don't understand why you would want to be an animal.
I haven't really experienced it in VR chat, but I've seen it in Second Life. There is a general dislike of furries pretty much everywhere. People just think it's weird, and people tend to not like things that are weird. So, but really, it just makes the rest of us stick that much closer together, so it evens out.
Well, I'm not a furry. I've seen it happen to other people who have got like the whole full animal suit kind of thing. Like people who've got like the full animal suit with the nose and the eyes and that actually look like a walking, talking animal. They get a lot of hate. Mine is more like an anime kind of character, so I don't really get it as much. But the ones with the full animal suit, they get it a lot. I don't know. I think like people kind of see them as degenerates.
Vocal minority.
Honest.
And also generally
So-
people tend to dislike things that they don't understand. And if you never take the time to, ask people around and actually gain relevant information, then
if we're talking about
people are stuck in
furries
their
and-
old ways.
Personally, I think that the only times I've seen people like actively dislike furries, it's typically people who are like in the bigger worlds. That like this is only day 3 for me because I already learned like don't go to the huge like popular worlds like the Black Cat and stuff like that because it's just full of trolls basically. So if you judge your perception on how furries are being received in that regard, then I can imagine that they will be negatively viewed there because there's a lot of trolls over there.
Yeah.
But honestly, I don't really recognize your remark on like how furries are like not really accepted in this space. I mean, I'm genderqueer. I like talking about gender and just in general. Queer philosophy is a hobby of mine, so that's also one of the reasons why I think that furries are just so interesting to me because they just have a different paradigm, and I still don't really understand. I heard furs and I was like, wait a second, just let me on this conversation because I want to learn more.
What's your YouTube name? So you can probably like cut this out a little bit too. Go subscribe to Humans in VR. Okay.
The vast majority of people that I'm friends with in this game, as well as on Discord, even if they don't identify as furries, they like a lot of furry artwork. I myself enjoy a lot of furry artwork. I think it's really well drawn. But I mean, to just kind of judge the furry community as a whole is impossible because it is one of the largest collectives on the internet. So you got adults, you got kids, you got LGBT people, you got straight people, you got people of different races and all kinds of stuff. I mean, the furry community is so massive. It's really hard to judge it. I mean, a lot of people like to hyper focus on some of the appalling, crimes that people in the furry community have done, and anything that normies can kind of use to ostracize them and make them, distance themselves from them to justify not liking them. I mean, you're going to see it happen, but ultimately judging the furry community as a whole is very difficult to do because it's just such a massive collective of people.
I don't dislike them, and I'm not really a part of it. I have like some friends that are furries, and so we don't really talk about it, but like I'm okay with hanging out with them. Like I don't see a problem with it. I just personally I would never do it.
Like I said, I haven't really been here long enough to really tell too much, but so far it's been all right. Mainly because this lets us be our persona without having to actually, spend thousands of dollars on a fursuit or, whatever. Much cheaper to be a furry here than it is elsewhere.
I've never actually interacted with one. I've kind of just not spoken to them. They usually hang out in groups in their own world. You hardly come across them in other people's world. They usually have their own kind of furry world and furry chat and all that kind of stuff. So I feel like they feel safer among their own kind of avatars. They don't get as bullied when they're around each other, I guess.
If we're talking about furries in general, it's because of the portrayal of us in media. I feel like people just need to group the hate on furries are usually one that they will go to. But when it comes down to it, if you consider like a fandom, do you know how you have your weebs, like your anime people? That's the comparison I like to make. We are basically another subculture of like geeks, if you want to call it that.
No, actually, this is my 3rd day, but I've gone to Comic Cons and that like furries are there as well, and they've always been very kind and friendly to me. So I have zero problem. Like I think that at least for as I can see it, I think that there's a lot of liberation in being able to just act however you want to do without having to worry about like the repercussions as a not like because you're in a suit, you're also kind of anonymous. I think that's also kind of an appeal to it, I guess.
Yeah, actually, that's true. The anonymity does help. You can be a completely different person.
Well, I've been playing this game since I want to say late 2017. And I mean, I've seen a lot of different phases and shifts in the communities, because this game isn't really so much one community as it is a cluster of different communities. And you can see culminations of these communities in, say, like public instances of the Great Pug or the Black Cat. You get kind of all walks of life there, but a lot of times, I mean, those instances, you're going to get an element of hostility, regardless of what type of whether you like to show off as an e-boy, e-girl, furry, whatever it is. You're gonna see some form of people who are going to give you crap, people who aren't going to like you and want you around. But that's just public instances. I feel like that a lot of people who are furries will end up finding little niche sections of the game, communities in the game, especially with the new implementation of the groups that they added. It's a lot easier for people to find communities of people that will accept them and people that will be willing to welcome them into their niche. So to kind of put it more in a more simple way, if you're referring to any form of, negative will, bad will towards any group, not just furries, that's something you're mainly going to see. I suppose this sounds rather sanctimonious, but in the unwashed masses. But once you actually get into the niche communities and make real groups of friends, I mean, you're going to find that world hopping, exploring with those people that are actually welcoming and actually accepting is, a much better experience as opposed to just hopping publicly.
Pokemon was actually the original thing that like drew me in, and then later on I found a lot of the people there really great and really nice people.
For me, it was kind of just a joke. I had like a Minecraft server. Yes, I know that's strange. A lot of the people who joined were furries. And just to screw with one of my friends, I kind of joked that, oh, I'm a furry now, just to kind of mess with them. But as I hang out with people more and more, I just grew used to them and eventually considered myself one.
Well, I don't know what the specific views are to dispel, so I really don't know what to say. But I guess the best thing I can say is we're not as bad as people think. We're really no worse than any other regular human. We just like furries. That's pretty much the gist of it. They don't like what they don't understand. My advice is get to know furries. If you get to know them, you'll see that we're not that bad. We can be weird. So
the furries that I know, they're pretty sensitive people. Like they're pretty sensitive. I think sensitive is a good word. And then in a good way.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, you go to especially the cat, which is a quest. I mean, you'll have a lot better luck in the pug, because in the pug, that's a PC world. I hate saying this, but a lot of that unwashed element that you're going to find in the cat isn't going to be there. It's going to be easier to find people to socialize with and get along with. The black cat is often just, am I allowed to use profanity for this? Then in that case, the black cat instance, quite frankly, can just be a terrible, miserable experience most of the time, because you're mostly going to see a lot of the same stuff, and that's just a byproduct of it being a quest world. These quest optimized worlds, because quest users can go there. I mean, the quest is such an accessible piece of hardware. It's such an accessible device that you're going to get 10 times the amount of different element of people. And a lot of them are just undesirable people that you don't really want to associate with in a game like this. So yeah, it is sad, for the new player experience. They're going to the cat. They're mostly going to see a bunch of nonsense.
Don't forget where you came from, and always try to look up. There's always something positive that's going to happen, even though it doesn't seem like it. I know a lot of people, they just go through this awful time and they feel like it's not worth living anymore. And it might seem like that for a while, but there's so much that this world has in store. And I guess also pay attention to everything that's going around, what's happening in the world, what's happening in the government. Because I know some people, they've seen what's been happening, and it has made them really depressed, and they feel kind of pressured to follow in with that group. And just don't do what everyone else is doing.
To be fair though, I feel like the hatred has also died down a lot in recent years. Maybe that's just me and the people I hang out with tend to see it's a furry. Okay, sure.
A trend.
People have just become
because I swear to you, it wasn't. Back then, it was a trend to hate on furries. People did it to look cool.
And it is funny, if you've seen videos, people will go into furry conventions to interview furries. They'll just ask highly sexualized or inappropriate questions, and it's funny, every time they end up getting kicked out by security. and they're like, "Oh, they kicked us out. I can't believe that."
I don't know, maybe because you were running up to somebody with a microphone and harassing them.
Give furries a chance. Get to know one. You'll find that we're not as bad as you think.
For me, it's feel free to experiment. Just don't worry about like failure is a mindset. And I know this like sounds like a motivational speech almost, but experiment. I think that a lot of people, as someone who's genderqueer myself, and I think it's a sad thing that a lot of men feel like it sometimes sounds as though they're like trapped in their little mind box. I'm like, experiment and then see if it
that's
fits.
a good one too.
Be kind to everyone, especially on the internet. Don't be a weirdo or incel.
Kindness is contagious. When you are kind, you inspire others. Be the spark. Spreading kindness merchandise available now.